Estranged family disowned me after I punched my twin for betraying me with my girlfriend, and now they want me at Christmas. I'm a 25-year-old man, the youngest of 4 kids born to my mom, 52F, and dad, 54M. In my family full of athletes, I always seemed like the odd one out. My dad was a star basketball player for a D2 school, my mom played volleyball, Michael, 31M, played soccer, Sarah, 28F, was into softball, and my twin brother Casey, 25M, was the shining running back on the football team. In contrast, my interest was archery, a sport my family dubbed wimpy. Even as a kid, I felt the constant sting of being the black sheep. My parents would pour every ounce of emotional support into my siblings' matches, games, and tournaments, all while my achievements drifted largely unnoticed. Between ages 14 and 16, I competed in around 20 tournaments, but my parents only bothered to show up to one. Their lack of emotional presence hurt, and when I tried to address it, I'd get brushed aside as an attention seeker. But the real fracture in our family didn't come from sports or lack of support. It happened when I was 15. I started dating Amy, now 25F, a classmate my age. After about 6 or 7 months, I introduced her to my family, who took to her immediately. Despite being young, I could already see a real future with her, but nearly 2 years into the relationship, my world flipped upside down. One of Amy's ex-friends told me Amy had been cheating on me, though initially, I didn't know with whom. Confronting Amy, she admitted it was my twin, Casey. She even told me the love she felt for him was stronger than what we had ever had. Later that day, I stormed home and confronted Casey. Years of pent-up pain and resentment boiled over. I punched him, knocking him out. It wasn't my proudest moment, and I recognized violence wasn't the answer, but in that terrible instant, everything inside me snapped. Years of being disregarded, always coming last, and now betrayed by the closest person I expected to have my back. Instead of supporting me, my parents gave me a choice: be sent away to live with my estranged paternal aunt, 48F, or face criminal charges, because I could have been tried as an adult. I left, heading 2 hours away to a woman I barely knew, carrying heartbreak and anger with me. For years, there was nothing but silence between me and my family. With time and my aunt's support, her and her husband, 48M, became family in ways my own never managed. I built a new life. I transferred high schools, later attended university in that city, and earned a degree in electrical engineering. I eventually met and married my wonderful wife, and I decided not to invite my biological family to the wedding. I didn't want drama to overshadow that day. My wife and I bought a house just an hour from my aunt and uncle, and a year ago, our daughter was born. Everything I thought I'd lost, I'd rebuilt. Then, about a week ago, my parents messaged me out of nowhere on Facebook. They wanted to reconnect over Christmas, to invite my family and me to their home. I told them I'd think about it, that there was a chance we had other holiday plans, and I'd give them a definite answer soon. What made everything even stranger, both Michael and Sarah sent me friend requests soon after. The sudden attention made my head spin. My wife, 2 months pregnant, told me plainly, if I chose to go, she and our daughter would spend Christmas with her father. She doesn't need to put up with the stress, and her well-being comes first. I respect and agree with her completely. Now, I'm torn. On the one hand, maybe my family genuinely regrets shutting me out all those years ago, maybe they want to apologize. On the other, it's possible this whole thing is just a ploy to get me to apologize to Casey, something I absolutely won't do. I'm left stuck between the hope that they want to make things right, and the fear that nothing has changed at all. The doubt, the pain, and the anxiety about opening up old wounds are eating at me. I don't know what path to take. Should I go and see if my family truly wants to reconcile, or is it better to keep the hard-won peace I've found and stay with the people who've proven they love me regardless? I'm really conflicted and in need of some clarity. And for the record, Amy was 15 when we started dating, just like me. I realized some details weren't clear at first. Apologies for any confusion. Update 1. 2 days after Christmas, my world was turned upside down. My wife suddenly started suffering from unbearable abdominal pain so intense she could barely stand. In a rush of panic, I grabbed her sister, and together we raced her to the hospital. There, I was dealt the devastating news: my wife had suffered a miscarriage, and they had to remove the fetus right away. Out of everything, the chaos, the fear, nothing came close to the awful moment when I had to explain to my wife what had happened. The look in her eyes will haunt me forever. Complications kept her in the hospital for an extra 2 days, and I tried to remain the pillar for both her and our daughter. But if I'm honest, the weight of it all feels almost too much to bear. I am barely holding it together. When it came to the holidays, I decided not to go to my family for Christmas. After everything that happened, the significance of that day felt heightened. Instead, I stayed by my wife's side. My family never made time for me. Why should I bend over backward for them? I sent them a message to say as much, half expecting a backlash. Instead, they just said they respected my choice and looked forward to seeing me after the holidays. That reaction didn't sit right with me. I felt like something was off and I couldn't shake the feeling, so I started digging into the lives of my family members, trying to piece together their sudden interest. What I found was interesting. My brother Michael is a corporate lawyer for a major company back in my hometown. His Facebook page is full of photos of his 2 daughters. He married his wife in 2016. My sister Sarah? She's married to a doctor and they have a son. Apparently, she herself started studying to be a nurse about 8 years ago, but never finished. Through a friend back home, whose parents still socialize with mine, I learned Sarah had divorced her first husband, the one she was with 8 years ago, after he committed mail fraud. Then there's Casey, my twin. He married Amy straight out of high school and they have 2 kids. I couldn't find much about what they do for a living, just that they bought a massive house last year, smack in the middle of a pandemic. Clearly, they aren't struggling. My dad seems to be fighting his own midlife crisis, while my mother dives deeper by the day into the so-called wellness community. With all of this info churning in my head, I started listing out all the possible reasons for their sudden outreach. Was it money? Unlikely. 8 years ago my parents made more than I did, and my siblings all seem comfortable. Was it an organ donation? Maybe, considering the genetic match with my twin Casey, except I literally saw photos of him skiing a week before Christmas. Then there was my daughter. Maybe they wanted to play the long-lost loving grandparents. But she isn't their first grandchild, so why now? I figured maybe they found out about my daughter from my wife's Facebook. Her privacy settings were public until recently. Still, it didn't add up. Feeling stuck, I reached out to my aunt, the estranged one who took me in when the rest of the family shoved me aside. She finally gave me the real story. To understand it, you have to know why my aunt and the rest of the family drifted apart. My paternal grandparents had 4 kids, my dad and my aunt included. After college, my aunt came out as bisexual and started dating her girlfriend. My grandparents immediately disowned her. No contact, nothing, but about 4 years ago, my grandfather started to reach out to her. Then, about a month ago, my grandpa started asking questions about me. What was I up to? Was I married? Did I have kids? My aunt, tired of the hypocrisy, called him out, especially after how he supported Casey and the lies about what happened between me and Amy. My grandfather, a religious zealot, told my aunt that he was told I had cheated on Amy with one of her close friends. According to him, that supposed friend went to Casey and Sarah for comfort, and when I found out, I attacked my siblings. Meanwhile, Sarah, always the instigator, tried to break me and Casey apart. But I never laid a finger on him or her. When my aunt told me this, I was dumbfounded. The whole family had fabricated an outrageous lie just to push me out. Later, my aunt told my grandfather the actual truth of what happened. He was shocked. All this time he believed Casey to be a decent guy. When he asked her for my number, she refused. That's when the real reason for my family's sudden outreach clicked. My grandfather is a multimillionaire, and he'd threatened to cut off my parents and siblings from his will unless they apologized to me and had me over for the family Christmas dinner. That's all it was, their greedy attempt to save their inheritance. Not an ounce of remorse or desire for genuine reconciliation. After learning all this, I blocked every last one of them. Why should I give them the time of day? My focus is on my wife, who needs me now more than ever, and the amazing, supportive family I have in my in-laws. As far as I'm concerned, my original family is dead to me. But it didn't end there. 3 days after New Year's Eve, my work phone rang with an unfamiliar number. I get unknown calls regularly, so I answered without thinking. I recognized my grandfather's voice right away. He must have found my number on my company's website. The first thing he did was apologize for never trying to contact me over the past 8 years, for missing my graduation, my wedding, the birth of my daughter. We were never super close, so his silence hadn't gutted me, but the words still hit hard. Then, he told me, he was so disgusted with the rest of the family that he was cutting them out of his will and putting me in. A part of me felt the financial relief, but I'm uneasy about the motivation. Was this just a ploy for access to my daughter, a way to insert himself into our lives? We talked for half an hour. For a brief moment, I thought maybe things could be different between us. But then he said something that flipped my mood in an instant. He was disappointed my daughter hadn't taken the family name. For context, after I married my wife, we had a whole debate about our last name. I was legally unable to change mine, but we still decided, as a couple, we had previously agreed that all our future children would carry my wife's last name. One day, my grandfather confronted me about this decision. His words stung, and I could feel anger welling up inside me. Without thinking, I unloaded on him, calling him a senile old man and hurling a slew of other hurtful things his way. I ended it by telling him to never contact me again. The sheer audacity of this man, to say such things after everything I've been through, is honestly astounding. I refuse to let him use the potential inheritance money as a way to control me. Even if it comes my way, I've already decided, I'll donate it all to a local charity. Though, knowing him and his history of empty promises, I highly doubt I'll see a cent. These past few weeks have been physically and emotionally exhausting. I'm just hoping to make it to the other side intact. As for my wife, she went so far as to private her Facebook account. Her in-laws followed her lead and did the same. Who knows what they're planning next to get in touch with me. I wouldn't put it past them to hire a private detective. I don't think they know where I live now, but with these people, you never really know. I considered seeking a restraining order, but with lawyers and their family, I know that route would be an uphill battle. The tension has left me reeling, I haven't even had a chance to process everything, let alone address the barrage of questions that came my way before everything escalated and my last post vanished. These days, I'm just holding on and hoping I can keep moving forward. Update 2. It's been 3 months since my last update, and I honestly didn't think I'd be back here writing another one. But life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them, and the past few weeks have been overwhelming, to say the least. My wife has been recovering well from the miscarriage, both physically and emotionally. We've been going to counseling together, and she's stronger than I ever gave her credit for. Our daughter is thriving, and for a while there, I thought we'd finally found our peace. I was wrong. About 6 weeks ago, I started noticing a car parked across from our house. Different models, different colors, but always someone sitting inside for hours at a time. At first, I chalked it up to paranoia. After everything with my family, I was probably just being overly cautious, but then my neighbor mentioned seeing the same thing. That's when I knew something was up. I installed security cameras around our property and started documenting everything. Sure enough, we were being watched. I managed to get a clear shot of one license plate and had a friend run it through some databases. It came back to a private investigation firm based in my hometown. My family had actually hired someone to monitor us. The breaking point came 2 weeks ago. I was at work when my wife called, hysterical. Someone had approached our daughter's daycare, claiming to be her grandfather and asking about her schedule. Thank God the staff followed protocol and refused to give out any information, but it shook us both to the core. That afternoon, I drove straight to the police station and filed a report. While I couldn't prove it was my grandfather or parents directly, the timing was too convenient to ignore. But here's where things get really twisted. 3 days after the daycare incident, I got a call from Sarah. Somehow, she'd gotten my new number, probably through the pie they hired. She was crying, begging me to hear her out. Against my better judgment, I stayed on the line. She told me that Casey and Amy's marriage was falling apart. Apparently, Amy had been having another affair, this time with Michael's business partner. When Casey found out, he completely lost it and trashed their house. The police were called, and Amy filed for a restraining order. She's taken the kids and moved back in with her parents. But that's not even the most shocking part. Sarah then dropped this bombshell. She'd always known the truth about what happened when we were teenagers. She knew Amy had cheated on me with Casey, and she knew I was innocent when I confronted him. She'd helped cover it up because she was jealous of the attention I got from Amy before they started dating. She said she'd had a crush on me for years and couldn't stand seeing me happy with someone else. I was speechless. My own sister, someone I'd grown up with, shared a room with during family trips, confided in about everything, had actively participated in destroying my life because of some sick obsession. She kept talking, saying she realized now how wrong she'd been, how she'd ruined not just my relationship with the family but her own life too. She mentioned going through a bitter divorce because she couldn't maintain healthy relationships after what she'd done to me. The conversation lasted nearly 2 hours. She begged me to come home, said the whole family was ready to tell the truth publicly, to clear my name with everyone who'd believed their lies. She promised they'd leave my wife and daughter alone if I'd just give them one chance to make things right. I told her I'd think about it and hung up, but honestly, I'm more confused than ever. Part of me wants to believe she's genuine, that maybe people can change after 8 years. Another part of me knows this could just be another manipulation, especially with their inheritance on the line. My wife, unsurprisingly, thinks I'm insane for even considering it. She's worried that any contact will open the floodgates again, and I can't blame her. We've built something beautiful together, and the thought of jeopardizing that for people who've shown me nothing but cruelty feels foolish. But there's something else eating at me. Yesterday, I got a text from an unknown number with a photo attached. It was Amy, looking exactly like she did when we were teenagers, standing outside what looked like a courthouse. The message read, "She's been asking about you. Thought you should know." I have no idea who sent it or why. Amy and I haven't spoken since that terrible day 8 years ago. Why would she be asking about me now? And why would someone think I need to know? I'm torn between the life I've built and the closure I might never get if I don't face this head on. My therapist says I should trust my instincts, but honestly, I don't even know what those are anymore. Every time I think I've moved past all this, something pulls me back in. The private investigator is still watching us. By the way, I've started taking different routes to work and having my wife park in the garage instead of the driveway. It feels like we're living in some kind of thriller movie, except this is our actual life. I keep asking myself, when does it end? When do I get to just be a husband and father without looking over my shoulder? Maybe the only way to find out is to face them once and for all. Update 3. I never thought I'd be back here again, but the past month has been a complete nightmare that I'm still trying to process. Everything I thought I knew about my situation was wrong, and I'm honestly not sure how to move forward from here. The private investigator situation escalated quickly after my last post. 2 weeks ago, I was coming home from work when I noticed the same car that had been watching us was now parked in our driveway. My heart nearly stopped. I called the police immediately, but by the time they arrived, the car was gone. However, they did find something that made my blood run cold, a manila envelope tucked under our doormat. Inside were photos. Dozens of them. Pictures of my wife and daughter at the grocery store, at the park, even some taken through our living room window. But what really shook me were the older photos mixed in, pictures of me from 8 years ago that I'd never seen before. Pictures of Amy and me together that someone had clearly been holding on to all this time. At the bottom of the envelope was a handwritten note: "We need to talk. Coffee shop on Maple Street, Tuesday 2 p.m. Come alone, or your family will never be safe. A friend." My wife wanted to call the FBI, but something about the handwriting looked familiar. Against every rational thought in my head, I decided to go. I couldn't live with the constant fear anymore, and I needed to know who was behind all of this. I arrived at the coffee shop early and waited in a corner booth where I could see the entire place. At exactly 2 p.m., someone walked in that I never expected to see again: Amy's mother, Mrs. Chen. She looked older, more worn down, but I recognized her immediately. She spotted me and walked over with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Thank you for coming," she said as she sat down across from me. "I wasn't sure you would." I was too stunned to speak at first. Mrs. Chen had always been kind to me when Amy and I were dating. She'd treated me like family, and losing her had been almost as painful as losing Amy. "I know you're confused," she continued. "And I know you probably hate my daughter for what she did to you. But there are things you need to know, things that Sarah and your family made sure you never found out." She reached into her purse and pulled out a thick folder. "Amy never cheated on you." I felt like the world had tilted sideways. "What are you talking about?" She confessed. "Casey confirmed it." You saw what Sarah wanted you to see," Mrs. Chen interrupted. "My daughter was being blackmailed." The story she told me over the next hour completely destroyed everything I thought I knew about my past. According to Mrs. Chen, Sarah had been obsessed with me since we were kids, but when Amy and I started dating, her obsession turned into something darker. She started following Amy, taking pictures of her, and eventually caught Amy in a vulnerable moment, crying in her car after a fight with her parents about college. Sarah approached Amy and told her she had compromising photos of me with another girl, which were fake, but convincing enough to a scared 16-year-old. She threatened to show them to Amy unless she agreed to break up with me by pretending to cheat with Casey. Sarah promised it would just be temporary, that once I was hurt enough to end things, she could comfort me and we'd eventually get back together. But Amy refused at first. That's when Sarah escalated. She told Amy she would make sure I was expelled from school by planting drugs in my locker unless she cooperated. Amy was terrified and felt trapped. She agreed to Sarah's plan, thinking she was protecting me. The day Amy confessed to cheating, she was following a script Sarah had given her. Casey was in on it too. Sarah had told him that Amy was actually in love with him and just needed a push to leave me. He was young and stupid enough to believe it. Mrs. Chen pulled out her phone and showed me a video. It was shaky and dark, but I could clearly see Sarah coaching Amy on what to say to me. The timestamp showed it was recorded the night before Amy confessed. "Amy kept this video as insurance," Mrs. Chen explained. "She was going to show it to you the next day and explain everything. But then you confronted Casey and everything spiraled out of control." I felt sick. All these years, I'd hated Amy for something she never actually did. Why didn't she tell me the truth later? After I moved away? Mrs. Chen's expression darkened. She tried. Multiple times. But Sarah intercepted every letter, every email, every attempt Amy made to contact you. Sarah even created fake social media accounts pretending to be Amy to make sure you'd never want to hear from her again. She showed me printouts of emails Amy had sent to my old address, all returned as undeliverable. Sarah had been forwarding my mail to a P.O. box she'd set up, filtering out anything from Amy. When Amy found out you'd gotten married, she thought it was too late, Mrs. Chen continued. She didn't want to ruin your happiness. But when your grandfather started asking questions about you, she realized Sarah's lies were still destroying lives. That's when she told me the most shocking part. Amy had hired the private investigator, not to stalk us, but to gather evidence of Sarah's manipulation. She'd been building a case to expose the truth, but she needed proof of how deep Sarah's deception went. The photos in that envelope aren't threats, Mrs. Chen explained. They're evidence. Amy has been documenting how your family has been harassing you, planning to use it to force them to leave you alone permanently. I couldn't process it all. 8 years of anger, of building a life on the foundation of betrayal that never actually happened. Where is she now? She's here. In the parking lot. She's been wanting to talk to you for years, but she was too scared you'd hate her. My hands were shaking. I need to see her. Mrs. Chen nodded and stepped outside. A few minutes later, Amy walked in, and I felt like I was looking at a ghost. She looked almost exactly the same as she did when we were teenagers, just more mature. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying. She sat down across from me, and for a long moment, neither of us spoke. "I'm sorry," she finally whispered. "I'm so sorry for everything. I should have been braver. I should have told you the truth from the beginning. Why didn't you?" The words came out harsher than I intended. "I was 16 and terrified," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Sarah convinced me that telling you would ruin your life. She said your parents would disown you, that you'd lose your scholarship opportunities, that everyone would blame you for the scandal. I thought I was protecting you. We talked for 3 hours. She told me about the years of guilt, how she'd gone through therapy to deal with the trauma of being manipulated by Sarah. She explained that her marriage to Casey had been a disaster from the start. He'd realized pretty quickly that she'd never actually loved him, and their relationship had been built on lies and manipulation. Casey figured out what Sarah had done about 2 years into our marriage, Amy said. He was furious, but by then we had a kid, and Sarah threatened to destroy both our lives if we said anything. She said she'd make sure everyone knew Casey had stolen you from me, that his football career would be over. The most heartbreaking part was learning that Amy had kept track of my life all these years. She knew about my graduation, my wedding, my daughter. She'd wanted to reach out so many times but always convinced herself that I was better off without her. When I heard about your wife's miscarriage, I wanted to send flowers or a card, but I knew it would just cause more pain, she said. I told her about my life now, about my wife and daughter, about how I'd built something beautiful despite everything. I could see the sadness in her eyes, but also something that looked like relief. I'm glad you found happiness, she said. That's all I ever wanted for you. As we were getting ready to leave, Amy handed me a flash drive. Everything is on here. All the evidence of what Sarah did, recordings of her admitting to the blackmail, emails she sent pretending to be me. If you ever want to expose the truth publicly, you have everything you need. I took the drive, but I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. Part of me wants to burn down Sarah's life the way she burned down mine. Another part of me just wants to finally be free from all of this. Amy asked if we could stay in touch, maybe as friends someday. I told her I needed time to process everything, but that I wasn't angry at her anymore. She cried when I said that. When I got home, I told my wife everything. She was shocked, then furious, then sad for me. We spent the night talking about what this all means for our future. The private investigator stopped watching our house the day after I met with Amy. She called off the surveillance once she knew I had the evidence I needed. I still haven't decided whether to contact Sarah or the rest of my family with this information. My grandfather has been calling my work number every few days, but I haven't answered. I'm not ready for that conversation yet. What I do know is that I feel lighter somehow, knowing the truth. The anger I've carried for 8 years wasn't based in reality, and while that's confusing and painful in its own way, it's also freeing. My wife suggested we might want to consider moving, starting completely fresh somewhere where none of these people can find us. I'm starting to think she might be right. For now, I'm just trying to focus on my family and figure out how to move forward from here. The truth was supposed to set me free, but honestly, it's just made everything more complicated.